Welcome to Nintendo Dads episode 428, recorded on May 25th, 2023. On tonight's episode with special guests Kelsey and David from the Video Game History Foundation, we talk, video game preservation, a lack of enthusiasm for Tears of the Kingdom, PlayStation Showcase dropped, and Super Mario movie continues to print money. That and your community questions. Jesse, you know what to do.
Welcome to Nintendo Dads episode 428, recorded on May 25th, as Justin just said. Today's guest, we have Kelsey and David from the Video Game History Foundation. Hello, Kelsey and David. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Doing good. We're so happy to have you guys on today, and we're excited to jump into all the news that we have going on, and plus hear from you guys about the Video Game History Foundation. And so without further ado, let's jump into the news.
Do it.
All right. The news is brought to you by patreon.com/Nintendo Dads. So a huge thanks to our newest Patreons for helping us create more and great Nintendo Dads content and make our community a better place. And also not to mention that our Patreons get an ad-free version of our episodes for $1 or more of their Patreon subscription. So don't forget that.
Ad-free. That's a heck of a deal, folks.
Yes. So if you don't like ads, you can just pay $1 and you get to listen to us ad-free.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I forgot to do, because I'm just starstruck, obviously, with Kelsey and David being on here. I forgot to ask how Jesse and Justin were doing. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah, I wondered why that intro went faster than normal.
Yeah. I was like, it's right off the rails already. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. It's, my job to do that, right? So
yeah. Well, I know that you're so enthusiastic to jump in and talk about this stuff, so I don't blame you, because I think I'm excited to hear what Kelsey and David have to talk about for the video game preservation, because it's pretty cool. I've been on the website. There's a ton of stuff there. So that's exciting. So I don't blame you. Doing well. Thank you for asking, though.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it.
Awesome.
Well, before we jump into it too much, let's jump into, like I said, the headlines, starting with Splatoon 3 Big Run begins June 10th and it ends June 12th. So if nobody knows about it, it's from this event onwards. Participants will be compensated with double the number of fish scales, I guess. I haven't played Splatoon 3, I guess, enough. I have no idea.
This game so hard.
Do you guys play?
Dave, Kelsey?
I was so into Splatoon 2, and I was I want to say I was good at it. I was certainly better than all of my friends. Don't put me in a tournament or anything, though.
Put her in a tournament, folks. You heard it here.
And Splatoon 3, I love it. It's great, but I didn't have a ton of time to play the first month that came out. And after that point, if you're not keeping up, everyone's really, really good. And it was discouraging for me, just as knowing that I had previously been very good at that series. I was like, no, well, I don't want to play this if I'm not good at it anymore.
I think I got to level 6 in the first Splatoon, and that's literally all I've played.
That's fair. David, sorry, go ahead. What were you saying there?
No, I was just saying shooters aren't my cup of tea. I'll watch my kids play it, and paint people, but the minute I try, I get splatted almost instantaneously, and I don't seem to get very far.
Yeah, I don't mind picking up, hey, if a bunch of friends are online, we're gonna play for for fun and some charity, and we can squad up, that's great. But when it's jumping with randos, I'm just I'm level 23 and you're level 203. Awesome, this is gonna go well, right? And so you just feel terrible. So
that's how I feel about most shooters. Is I love the games, but just I don't spend enough time in it to be good enough to make it fun.
You sort of have to commit. That's your thing, right? It's either Apex or Fortnite or Overwatch or Splatoon or COD, right? You've got this is the life I choose, right? And so you kind of have to drink all from that fountain. So hopefully someone's excited for this.
I was talking with my son before we started. he's been living Valorant lately, and apparently there's an anti-cheat app that has to run as a service in the background, and it likes to crash. So when it crashes, it can't restart. He has to literally uninstall it and reinstall it, and he's had to do that like 5 or 6 times in the last few weeks.
Wow.
Interesting.
He's frustrated with it.
Sure.
But he still likes the game.
The other thing to mention is Sizzle season begins June 1st. So for all you Splatoon fans out there who know more about this than I do, apparently, hopefully that means something for you.
I like it. It's like, we don't know much. Moving on.
Right.
Speaking of being nothing to me.
GameStop replaces power-up rewards. GameStop Pro is the new name that will change on June 27th. It'll feature new and simplified benefits, I guess, and annual price will increase to $24.99. I think
How do you simplify
10.
Nothing?
Right?
Well, it's simplified in that you also don't get Game Informer anymore. So it's simplified in that it's simply worse in every way. Yeah. But, you know.
That's awesome.
And also increase the value or increase the cost because it's up by $10.
Yeah,
I need to read that email because apparently I didn't know about the Game Informer part.
You know, I don't. Yeah. They don't. I forget exactly like where that. There's something to do with like you just can't subscribe to the physical issues anymore, but like people are grandfathered into it right now. It's I don't want to get too doom and gloom this early in a podcast, but that doesn't sound very good.
Yeah, this is perfect.
That's what it's here for.
Great for the oldest still running video game magazine in the US and one of the only video game magazines in the US.
I'd actually love to sit in that pocket actually for a second because I'd love to hear Kelsey and David kind of your maybe outlook on something like GameStop and the service that they provide, kind of with their niche, I think, in the video game market. And I mean, as we've seen so much more move from brick and mortar to digital consumption, what does that mean a little bit more for video game preservation as well? So I'd be curious about how both of you look at GameStop and even to your point, good call that like now Game Informer is no longer in print. Well, that's challenging, right? From a preservation perspective. So I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's almost two different questions there. And so David's been an awesome volunteer for us. He did not go with us on this trip, but we did, the Video Game History Foundation did go to Game Informer's offices in 2019 and digitized a ton of what they had. Game Informer's been around since the early 90s, and they haven't really moved offices. They're located in Minneapolis. They have now, actually. They've shut down that office post-pandemic, but prior to that, they had the same office forever, and they were kind of hoarders, and so they were putting everything that got sent to them, all the press releases and all of that, into a room. And this is already off topic, but I'll wrap it up there. We went.
This show doesn't we don't really hold a topic, like it just wanders.
We
so
go
don't
off
feel
the
bad.
rails.
Sit wherever you want to go.
The notes are just a suggestion.
Excellent. Okay. So we went there. We did a huge 5-week digitization project of all of that stuff. We're still kind of working with them in terms of how we handle presenting it publicly, because they still have relationships with all of these companies. The good/bad news is that if GameStop starts winding down, those will no longer be considerations anymore. But that's video game magazines have historically been just such a dense and comparatively easy to preserve form of video game history, because in a magazine you get all kinds of additional context for a game. So I mean, you get its review and everything, but sandwiched in there with other reviews and stuff, you sort of get a sense for like, okay, what are people talking about in the industry at large right now? Like, yes, this game reviewed really, really poorly, but like, what else were they excited about this issue? Did any of that like play into that? Is it because, we're sick of shooters or whatever, and so those aren't performing as well? We think of them as a really dense, way of understanding kind of what's going on in the industry. It's not perfect, but if you have to pick like one object to represent, it's a pretty good one. And paper is way easier to preserve than anything digital or ephemeral. I mean, a lot of these conversations and critiques and stuff are happening online right now, not just on websites. Websites, at least we have the Internet Archive so far, but like on Twitter, there are like deep, interesting threads about video games and their like current state happening, on Twitter and places that are way, way, way harder to keep alive for future generations. And then, of course, when it comes to the games themselves, I mean, that is an entirely that is an enormous problem, which I'm sure we'll get into later in the show, and some of the things the foundation is doing about that. But in general, I think the GameStops of the world are sort of have at least been a necessary part of the physical video game ecosystem. You have to have a place to exchange these items, even if they don't offer a very good value or whatever. Like there has to be the sort of like Walmart of of places like that for people, for it to be like a culturally understood thing that like, hey, I can buy a physical video game, and then when I'm done with it, I can make some money. And David, I'm so sorry, I just rambled the heck there. And if you have anything to add to that, please. I didn't even let you speak.
I think magazines are a good snapshot of a time. If you think back to being a kid and you think about Game Pro, Game Informer, Nintendo Power, the information inside those magazines are a good snapshot of what was going on in the industry at the time. So you see advertisements, what style were the advertisements, how were the advertisements written, how were the game reviews written, how did they present the information. So it takes you back to, it's almost like a time machine when you flip through, some of these magazines. And I have some of them hanging behind me, but you see, what was happening in the industry, what were people saying about Nintendo, what were people saying about Sega, the console wars, what Microsoft's coming into the gaming industry. It's a good picture of what's going on. And I think GameStop, even though some of their practices and some of their methodologies need to shift or should have shifted, in order to stay more relevant in the gaming industry, I think they're vital to keep and maintain the industry alive. Because like Kelsey was saying, you need that Walmart, Target type of place where people can go in and pick up physical goods. Should they rebrand and kind of shift? I think so. For a while there, they were a big, you would walk in and you didn't even know it was a game store. The games would be in like a far corner and there'd be a big clearance bin. That's the first thing you would see.
That's and still my experience walking in, is like, it's just, you have to get past all of the merch and Funko Pops and everything and, t-shirts before you even see the video games. It's a strange,
they shifted away and my kids, they go in and my youngest, who's, he's only 7. I remember taking him in when he was even younger. He's like, oh, is this a game store? And that should never be the question. And if your name is GameStop, you shouldn't walk in and be like, is this the Funko Pop store? They really
actually not from a 7-year-old.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's important that they're around. I think any type of game store is important to have, whether it be a mom and pop store or a chain, because it keeps the industry a lot. It's a place where kids can go in, get interested in video games, and it's vital. I think kind of like bookstores are vital to books. A lot of the bookstores, I used to work at a bookstore when I was in high school, and Walden Books went out of business, and now there's just Barnes and Nobles. So if you want books, you have other than Amazon there, but you really do want to have a place where you can go in and look at physical goods and touch physical items.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. Especially when we almost lost even Best Buy at one point when they were going through a lot of stuff, but they were able to restructure, and thankfully you can go to Best Buy and look at electronics or whatever.
Well, it seems like I mean I shouldn't say it seems like. I'm sure we're going to talk about this more, but like the industry is shifting more and more away from physical, right? When you think of like, we all praised Game Pass in regards to the value it adds, but in actuality, right, when you talk about physical, digital, or physical preservation, it's not really there as much, right? And then the other part of it is, yeah, I can pre-order a game on my Switch right now and there's no physical, right? Like the industry is moving more and more.
Yeah. Isn't Alan Wake
that
2
model.
going to be digital only? Isn't that
Yes.
what
Yeah,
I heard?
actually,
Yep.
let's mention that real quick. That actually came from one of our viewers, Mecca, who mentioned that is it still worth getting games physically nowadays when everything has day one patches? Or also, are you nervous about what Alan Wake 2 is doing, going digital only? So how is that? How are these type of things affecting digital preservation or video game preservation?
Yeah, I mean, preservation from the preservation side, yeah, I mean, you're simply not getting the full game on a disc anymore. And we just don't live in a world where you can bring the cartridge home and put it in a cartridge dumper and now the game is preserved. Like we're long past that at this point. From is it still worth it to buy it perspective? And this comes more from, my experience co-owning 3 retro game stores in Seattle. But having a physical game is at least always going to be worth something, and the ability to own it and resell it, I think, is a somewhat powerful one. I mean, if you're buying a game for $60, like, yes, it might depreciate all the way down to 20 or whatever, but it is, it's still better to have that option to sell it, in my opinion, than only have the digital thing that at any moment they could just decide to take away from you. So, but from a preservation perspective, I mean, yeah, we're just simply long past that. And again, I'm sure we'll get into more of this later, but it is, the game companies themselves do not have a lot of motivation to keep those things playable forever. Like there's not a economic incentive to make sure that their stuff is maintained indefinitely. And it's part of why, libraries and archives and sort of preservation institutions need to be tasked with stepping in on that kind of stuff. Also, we are also probably past a point where we are going to be able to literally save everything in a complete, playable form. I mean, we have so many live service games now. We have so many MMOs. We have games that get patches every 4th day. Do you keep all 4, every version of that game, like every 200 different versions of a single game running and playable forever? It just starts getting, past the point of feasibility. And so, we can, I mean, let me know how deep you want me to get into this now. But
I was going to say that unless it's you have super fans who take it up upon themselves to preserve a game and actually host it on their own servers, or other companies like, what is it, GOG.com or something like that, where
GOG does a great job.
They have a lot of the older games there. So, and like one I just read about that because I just found out about it, was Marathon was announced at the PlayStation Showcase there by Bungie. And I didn't know Marathon had games previously that I forget who's hosting them, but they're hosting the older games out there somewhere online as well. So I just thought that was very interesting that, there's still people who are preserving a lot of these games one way or another, even after they've gone offline or whatever, or no longer available. You could still, super fans who have the ability put it on their own servers and make it available.
Yeah, I mean, as always, the fans kind of save everything. And that's, again, it's something that needs to be more celebrated and encouraged and not gone after with legal action. But at the same time, I mean, even super fans, can't save everything, because this is a very interest driven. Preservation has always been very interest driven. And, people are going to have a lot of personal interest in things like Zelda and, in popular games and maybe even like cult hits and that sort of thing. But who's preserving all the indie games or all of the cell phone games, or, it just, the reality of it is by interest, and human interest can't cover every video game, unfortunately. So
yes, that makes sense.
Which is sad too, because there's a lot of the less popular games that, they're not the Zeldas and the Marios, but, I know not in everybody's eyes, but in my eyes, games that are kind of like the I don't want to say hidden gems, but, like the less popular games, those deserve to be preserved just as much as the Zeldas, the Marios. I would even venture to say, even though I'm not a games as a service fan, the games as a service games, even though their servers might go online, I would say that the companies that make them should have some kind of motivation to save them so they can be accessed in the future. You know,
I mean,
I
I'd
don't,
love that. I just don't think it's practical. I think that
there's no
we're,
motivation behind them to do it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which is sad in a way, you know, because there are fans of games that are games as a service. I can't think of one off the top of my head. There was it Ninjala or something that came out a couple years ago where it was taken down, and you know, it's just they should have some kind of way to save those or try to preserve them, even if there are a bunch of different versions, save something. So, you know,
Yes.
down the line, 20 years from now, we could go back and look, oh, look, that was Fortnite 20 years ago. I just think it would be important.
Was DC
Yeah, and
Superheroes or something like that one of those, like the DC one that used to be online and PC? I think that was one that was
I
preserved by
believe it.
fans.
I
I
don't,
thought that was still running,
I,
but I don't know.
Is it still okay? I might be thinking of something else.
there's that superhero MMO though, the City of Heroes. Is that
Oh,
what
maybe
you're
that's
thinking
the one I
of?
was thinking of.
I
Yeah.
think that's what Tim's thinking of.
Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
DC one's still running by the
Okay.
the guys who did EverQuest.
Got it.
But I mean, the actual like official stance of the foundation is yes, we should obviously try to preserve playability as much as humanly possible, but we should be realistic about you know, finding alternative ways to preserve things because, like David said, I mean, it's important that future historians, you know, 20, 30 years from now know that, I mean, I'm not worried about Fortnite so much as I am about other things, but like, you know, but know that like, you know, this was a game and this is how people played it. And a really good place to start with that is simply just making sure that we're getting, you know, good archives of like videos of people playing it, of Twitch streams, of the sort of like, here's what it was like to play this game if we don't preserve the playability. Because I'll give you another example that I like giving a lot, which is you know, World of Warcraft right now, we do have WoW Classic and stuff up. It's a slightly different experience than, you know, if you were actually playing it in 2005 or whatever. But you know, a historian is going to get more out of like the Leroy Jenkins video than they are by just kind of wandering around an empty Azeroth, you know, like just you could spin up a server of World of Warcraft that's completely empty in 50 years, you know, in theory. But what is, you know, you're going to learn some things from that, but you're probably going to learn much more about how the game functioned and like what was going on in the game, what the culture of the game was, and its impact and everything by seeing people play it, not
Watching
trying to
the gameplay.
Yeah, not trying to come at it again, you know, 20, 30, 40 years later and just try to like recreate what was happening in 2005 because that's just simply not going to happen.
That makes sense. Yeah, and that probably brings up another question for another topic, I suppose, about because I don't think Twitch preserves their videos either. So it's, you know, you get a lot of streamers out there and those videos end up dropping off. So, but anyways, before I go down that rabbit hole, let's get back into the news here. So more news, like mentioned at the opener, there was a lack of enthusiasm for Tears of the Kingdom, apparently, and it led to the 10-minute play video with Anouma. So Nintendo noticed a lack of enthusiasm from the February trailer per an interview with Anouma in the Washington Post. So Anouma was asked to do a short Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom hands-on showcase in March, which showed fans Ultra Hand and Fuse, as well as the Sky Islands, which achieved the results that Nintendo was expecting. Also in the Washington Post interview, Tears of the Kingdom was pretty much complete by March 2022. A year's delay led to a year of polish. Anouma says that they delayed it because they wanted to make sure that everything in the game was 100% to their standards and that the wild physics of the game just worked. So what do you guys think of that? That there was a lack of enthusiasm, even though it was the most anticipated game at the Game Awards, it was still a lack of enthusiasm for Tears of the Kingdom.
There's not a lack of enthusiasm right now. I'll tell you that much. All I see are videos online of vehicles people built and gameplay videos and interesting ways, you know, they blow things up, and I don't think they have anything to worry about right now.
Right. Yes, it's I thought that was very interesting, and I guess I'm glad that there was a lack of enthusiasm, but I think it was from what some of the things they read on social media as well.
Well,
What
yeah,
led
and
to
I
that.
think even we said it back in February. We know nothing of the story, nothing, and we don't know what's new. We've only seen like 3 or 4 small trailers, total of maybe 4 minutes total of video in 4
Yes.
years. So
That makes sense now, because Anouma watches the Nintendo Dad's Japanese version over there. So and
did I need to know Japanese for this podcast? Yeah.
That's the second half of the show.
right, yes.
Ichiwa Ayonoma-san.
Exactly.
I think the challenge that Nintendo faced was there was so much of a conversation around the narrative, right? And so Nintendo wasn't really owning the narrative. They were what they were showing. Everyone was like, "Well, I've seen this before." In that it's Hyrule. I haven't seen a lot of changes, and there's some stuff in the sky. And I think the other part of it we have to remember is that one of the things we heard about Breath of the Wild originally was, or Tears of the Kingdom was, it sort of was a DLC expansion idea for potentially Breath of the Wild that then scoped out. So what we had been shown was, here's Hyrule, and there's some sky stuff. And so I think everyone was like, this is not super enthusiastic. I know this narrative, right? You haven't told me a lot. And so I think, and really if you think about it, what Anouma showed in March wasn't story beats, right? Didn't tell us anything about the story. Just literally, oh, by the way, you can now put things together, right? You can now fuse things. You have it, and it's like, oh, wow, right? That all of a sudden opened up everyone's understanding of it. So I'm not shocked they had to do this, but I would also argue that, like, I'm curious about where they got the not enthusiastic about it. Like, what metric were they tracking? Was it someone
social
like
media?
Yeah, like
Social
how
media.
many, down fingers or down thumbs was it on YouTube, or just some guy in the streets like,
Right.
I wasn't super enthusiastic. But yeah, I think
Does that rank up there with middle fingers?
Yeah, somewhere around there, right? I think they're plenty fine now.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And, one of the predictions that I said before the game launched was, the game's going to be based on the old map, and I think there's going to be a higher layer and a lower layer, and boom,
Yeah.
I was right.
I think the other thing that I like hearing here is statement was, it was essentially ready March 2022, and you spent a year plus to polish this thing. That's
take notes.
Yeah, like every other developer take notes, right?
And it shows too.
Right, the fact that you
can't break it.
Yeah, the fact that, like, the stupid things that people come up with and the game's not breaking, right? That crazy moment where you jump from the Sky Island all the way to a cave and there's no load screen. It is seamless.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, you just don't know that the load screen's happening in the background while you're falling.
Correct. Yeah. But we've all played those games where it's like, yeah, I'm going to move into a new area, and you open the door and the door loads slowly and recloses
Metroid
slowly.
Prime.
You're like, yeah. Right. And so the Nintendo magic that they do, right?
Or
the Nintendo polish is what
very very tight way where you have to squeeze in sideways.
Yeah. Right.
That's your loading screen.
Yeah. So it's fantastic. I liked it.
Yeah, I like to hear when they don't rush a game. I think it should be an example, because you see games like Cyberpunk that probably were rushed out the door, that were broken and on release, and you hear about stories of delay the game as much as you need to. Don't rush people, don't overwork people, don't make them put in unrealistic hours. You end up getting a better game and a better experience. And like you said, it's the Nintendo magic, and the game is doing phenomenal. So, big corporations should take note. Rushing a game out the door is not going to bode well.
Yes. And I loved seeing all the posts from all kinds of developers on Twitter just saying, Nintendo, how did you do this? So it was great to see. In other news, Super Mario movie is now the third highest grossing animated movie of all time. Our friend Mikey Burgett of Screen Nerds gave us an update saying Mario movie box office numbers is at $551.8 million domestic and $1.265 billion worldwide. Still number 2 domestic behind Incredibles 2, but they're just away by 57.5 million. And then worldwide is about 20 million behind the number 2 spot held by Frozen right now. So keep going to see that movie, even if it's available on digital. Everybody go out and buy tickets.
Support capitalism.
Yes.
I think I'm actually surprised that they're still making that much money in the theaters since it's been made digitally last week or the week before. But if this pace continues, they may pass Frozen, but I think Frozen 2 is out of reach.
Yeah. So David, did you take your family out to go see this right away the first weekend, or?
Yep, we saw it the first weekend, and we bought it digitally. It was funny too. We went to go see it on Amazon and it said $25 to rent or $30 to buy.
Right.
And I think my kids have watched it, like 10 times already.
I was going to ask you, how many times have you seen it at home now?
a bunch of times.
Who would rent it for that price?
Yeah. That's like the old trick. Oh, it's $5 more to buy.
Right.
But yeah, I saw it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I think it's a good first step for Nintendo to get back into movies and TV shows and stuff. And I hope we see Animal Crossing and Metroid and Zelda and all that good stuff.
No.
You don't want to see Illumination make Animal Crossing?
No, I don't. Not even a little bit.
I only want Animal Crossing if it's a gritty crime drama. That is what I want. I want like a
horror movie.
Animal Crossing SVU kind of
thing. Make it a buddy cop movie with the Doom guy and what's her name?
I'd watch that.
Isabel.
Yeah.
That I would pay money to see.
Yep. So Kelsey, how many times did you see it at theaters, or did you
just once? But
Okay.
I think I spent way more time looking in the background for all the Easter eggs than actually watching the movie.
Right.
Can I share my favorite one? Because I don't think very many people have
Go for it.
Picked up on this one. So, I mean, pretty obvious that a lot of the locations in Brooklyn are inspired by classic Nintendo games. You got the Punch Out Pizzeria and all that stuff. The address on those buildings ends with the year that those games released. So Punch Out Pizzeria is
I did not hear that.
Whatever 83.
Wow.
Nice. You heard it here, folks. Go watch that.
Game Explain, move over. Kelsey knows what's going on.
I was proud of picking up on that one. I'm like, I bet not a lot of people saw that one.
Yeah.
I noticed it on the Duck Hunt building and the Punch Out place, and I think the one with the Famicom Discoon on it as well.
I think that's what we're gonna see now, right? Once it's available for purchase. So many more of these, like the 25 Easter eggs you didn't see before, right? Because you're so quickly moving.
Where people can freeze frame and really analyze it frame by frame.
Yeah, I'm surprised Nerdist didn't do that already. Usually they do something like that. So
yeah,
but I know there's other outlets that do it too. So
give credit to Kelsey.
Right. All right. We also had this week the PlayStation Showcase that dropped. Anybody here watch that?
Yes.
Watched
I did not.
45 minutes of it. I missed the first 15 or so.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I got to watch it. I got to squeeze it in. And there's a couple things I'm excited about, like Marathon, actually, one we mentioned earlier. I'm excited about that, learning more about that. Not too many people excited about the handheld Project Q. They call it Project Wii U or Wii U 2.
My favorite image is that with the Tears of the Kingdom glue between
the glue, holding the controllers to the side to the. But I'm actually excited about the Project Q because I love mobile devices. So those are a couple things I'm looking forward to. What about you guys? Anything that stood out to you, Kelsey? Anything stand out to you on it?
I'm totally gonna play that Splatoon ripoff. Foam Stars.
Foam Stars, yes.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Which just looks like Fortnite Splatoon. It's made by Square Enix. I think it's going to... I doubt it's going to be very good, but it's one of those things that, speaking of game preservation, is probably going to be up for a year and then killed. So
I was saying, what's the over-under on 18 months?
Yeah. I saw
Square Enix doesn't have a good track record lately.
Square Enix that said, as of today, we're taking, what was it, Foam? What was the game called? Foam Foam Stars offline.
Stars,
We know it'll happen in 6 months, so we're just saving ourselves 6 months of time now. And I was like, that's pretty accurate. It did a little bit feel, it reminded me of the meme from, hey, can I borrow your homework? Yes, but just don't make it too obvious that you copied. Was definitely a little bit of the feeling that I saw, I think, with Foam Stars, and I think with Q. I don't really understand. So first, I think the thing looks awful. Like
Project Q, yeah.
Project Q aesthetically, like that was like it looks bad. I think it literally is like
it looks like they cut a
just grab
PlayStation 5 controller.
just grab the solder iron. Okay,
got
grab
an
your
8-inch
Samsung tablet, smack, right?
But I still want it.
Super glue.
I don't know why. I still want it.
But it's just a streaming device, isn't it?
I know. Yes, it's just going to stream locally from what we know so far. There's still more information coming. I'm sure they're going to have some focus groups on it. But yeah, right now it's just as it stands, it's a Wi-Fi machine for you be able to play your PlayStation 5
Okay, so help me understand then. Why would you not get a backbone controller?
I don't know.
Right?
Well, one, I don't have an iPhone, and I think the PlayStation
that's on
one.
You. All right.
PlayStation 1 only works with the iPhone, I think. I haven't seen an Android version of the PlayStation 1 yet.
Yeah.
But Kelsey,
I
saw you nodding.
The haptics wouldn't work, and the programmable triggers wouldn't work, and but who really cares about that much?
Kelsey, go ahead.
I buy every stupid handheld thing, and I'm not going to buy this. So that's a pretty.
That's my thoughts. I buy all the weird things, but I have no interest in this.
Yeah, if you could, I mean, again, like you can't go very far from your PlayStation. It's it's streaming. So like, I see very limited use for, someone else needs to use the TV or whatever. Or I need to be in bed. That is a game that I can only play on PS5 anyways. And
unless they plan on doing the Nintendo thing by you use your mobile phone to use the hotspot and then you can play anywhere.
Fontez in the chat here actually says, Tim, that they just released an Android PS backbone yesterday.
Oh, cool. So then there we go. I guess I don't need a Project Q anymore. So
yeah, I just don't understand. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Nice.
The general consensus I saw, and again, this is not the PlayStation Dads show, but the general consensus I saw online is that people were not overly hot about this event. There was a lot of hype leading into it, but did not necessarily deliver. So.
Speaking of PlayStation Dads, I do want to give a shout out to Dads After Dark show, where they did a PlayStation Dads episode 4, where they break down the PlayStation Showcase. So go check out Dads After Dark show on YouTube to watch their breakdown about the show. So
I haven't.
And also Marty says Sony copies all the Nintendo things in the PlayStation Showcase.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the show, but I've seen kind of summaries and bulleted lists of games announced. And there's really only one game I care about, and it is coming to Switch. Cat Quest Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes. That's speaking of that, PlayStation did show a lot of third parties and indie games, so it wasn't just all Sony games. And but I think for me, I think the problem was it was too long. They crammed a lot in there, and it was an hour and 15 minutes, I think it was. And it was just like, when is this thing going to end? I just want to know about the Sony stuff. And I think they should do kind of the Nintendo thing, where it's like, if you're going to support indies, then do that in its own showcase. Then show the main games that are coming to the PlayStation in your showcase.
Was there a lot of actual gameplay shown? I didn't see the showcase, but I heard that there wasn't a lot of. It was just like a title.
Spider-Man had the most had a lot of gameplay shown.
Yeah,
but I think that was about it, and that was like the last thing. That was after they closed it.
Yes, there was a lot of impressive looking trailers. And Spider-Man does look great. Yes, Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, and there was another game by, I forget the name of it, but it's by some of the developers who started the new studio, who did Night in the Woods. So you can tell by the art style it's very similar. But that game is not coming to Switch. That's PlayStation and I think Steam only.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that is it for the news. Let's go into our ad break, and then we'll continue on to our spotlight.
Hey, folks. Support Nintendo Dads is brought to you by Manscaped. And folks, Manscaped has some tremendous products, whether it is the Beard Hedge Pro Trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0, or the Weed Whacker 2.0. There is amazing products out there that you use that you can be using every single day to help your body needs and cares, whether it's taking care of some of those weird hairs coming out of your nose or your ears, because that happens a lot at an age like we are. Maybe you need some amazing deodorant. Hey, they've got you covered in that. How about it's hot and sweaty outside and you need foot powder deodorant? They've got you covered in that. You like body washes? They got body washes. You like chaps? You like chapped lips? No, you don't like chapped lips, but you like chapsticks? Yes, well, they got you covered there too. Right. And maybe just because it's getting to be summertime, you're looking to take off the shirt, you got some weird body hair. Hey, they can take care of that too as well. They have all the products that you need. So head over to manscaped.com and use the code NINDADS, NINDADS, for 20% off and free shipping. Big thanks to Manscaped for their continual support. And hey, by the way, do you not like hearing ads here at Nintendo Dads? Well, guess what? I've got a sweet deal for you. Head over to patreon.com/Nintendo Dads. And as for just $1, you will get all of our episodes of Nintendo Dads ad-free. That's right, ad-free. You don't have to hear me talk about shaving awkwardly and weirdly in places that you don't want to talk about. All right, you just $1. Patreon.com/Nintendo Dads. You get an ad-free version of the show. We send it to you. No ads, just the good stuff. Back to you guys.
All right. This is the guest spotlight section of the show where we get to spotlight our guests. David B., a Nintendo Dad Patreon and Video Game History Foundation volunteer, as well as Kelsey Lewin, Video Game History Foundation co-director and Pink Gorilla co-owner. Thank you again for joining the show to the both of you. We have quite a few questions to get through from both ourselves and our community, so hopefully we can get through them in a timely manner, but no rush. We'll take our time and have fun with it. All right. So the first question goes to David. Why did you become a volunteer for VGHF?
Oh, why? Well, I'll give you the abbreviated version because this could be a long story. It started when I was a wee little video game lover. I've loved video games from when I was too young to remember. I remember growing up and, it was a typical 80s bedroom with the wood paneling walls and the tube TV and the Atari 2600 Junior hooked up to the TV. And I loved them ever since. They got me through some times in my life, growing up, as a kid and, growing up and having kids of my own, and they've always been there and been important. So I really did want to do something to make a difference. And a couple years ago, it's been a couple years, I saw a tweet go out from the VGHF asking for volunteers, and I quickly jumped at the opportunity to help the organization. And I remember replying to the tweet, and I periodically would send emails, and every email I sent, I was like, oh, I hope I'm not bothering them. I would send one like every month or so. Is there anything I could do? Is there any work I could help you guys out with? And I was like, oh no, they're going to tell me to go away. And eventually, I guess Kelsey, thought I wasn't just, trying to, just bother. I was trying to actually help. And she gave me the great opportunity that I'm, grateful for, to be able to help the organization with a couple of projects. And I've been trying to help ever since. And I've been having a great time. And I thank Kelsey and the organization. And I hope to continue to help make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, David's been awesome. I feel bad because we often struggle, we're a pretty small organization, and I feel like we often struggle to have substantial volunteer tasks. It's one of those things where it's like, well, by the time I got done teaching you how to do this task, I could have just done it. And so we're not always, we're not always the best about finding good opportunities for people like that. But David's been always very willing to jump into even the not so fun work in ways that have been really, really useful. In fact, he did, I think, literally all or almost all of our internal magazine scan check program, which is basically we have a one of the things we do is we make sure that we are preserving magazines, not just on our shelves at the archive, but also, digitizing magazines that haven't been digitized yet. Anything, we have a duplicate of. And it was becoming really hard to track, like, what has been scanned, what hasn't been scanned. So we worked with Retro Mags, which is a great organization that's been doing this for a while. We kind of got all of their data, what have they scanned? And then we were just past that, we were manually checking against like the Internet Archive and that sort of thing. And it was just this awful, grueling process to make sure that we're not, spending precious time and resources scanning something that's already been scanned really, really well. And we have scanned almost 1,200 magazines that way. Now knowing now being able to look at this list and be like, okay, we have a duplicate of this and this one has been scanned. That's fine. This one hasn't been scanned. And then doing that. So yeah, we have gotten about 1,200 magazines so far scanned. And that's largely thanks to all of David's manual labor there. So yeah, that was awesome. And that's an exciting thing I get to tell people now.
I had such a good time working on that project, and I know some people would think, oh, that's tedious and it's a lot of work, but I had such a great time checking the US magazine publications for video games magazines, and it came at the perfect time. I remember I had a 4-day work weekend. It was I don't remember if it was a holiday weekend, but I had 4 days off. And I remember telling my wife, I'm like, I'm going to show them what I can do. So I literally got up in the morning. I think it was a Friday or Thursday. And I was like, I'm going to work. So I sat down on my laptop for like 8 hours and I was just checking magazines, seeing if they were in the Internet Archive, or if they weren't, I was marking them down. And my kids were coming in. They're like, what are you doing, Daddy? I'm like, I'm helping make sure these magazines are
Nice.
archived, and I'm like showing them this magazine came out when I was 8 years old. This Nintendo Power, and it was just such a great time. I
That makes
thank
it even
Kelsey
better.
again for the opportunity. It was an awesome time.
You gotta
That
quit
sounds
thanking
awesome.
me. We're thanking you.
Oh, no. I was even asking, I think she might remember that I asked, oh, are we going to be doing all magazines? Because I was like, oh, I want to keep going. Can we go to the magazines from across the, Japanese video game magazines?
We do need to do that at some point. So,
I'm ready.
You'll be the first person I hit up when that project starts, because, we're a US based nonprofit. We're starting with the sort of, I don't even want to say low hanging fruit. It's just that, shipping stuff from the UK is expensive. Shipping stuff from Japan is expensive, not quite as expensive, but, and it's, you want to start with the stuff that is not going to cost you $20 a magazine just to get it in the archive, then to figure out if it's a duplicate and scan it and stuff. So we'll get there.
That makes sense.
Yes, it was definitely a fun time, and every project that I've helped has just been a ball. I've had a great time, with the magazine project, with the latest commercial availability, which I don't know how much we can say or not say, Kelsey, but that one too was also, checking commercial availability of certain things was also a good time.
Yeah, I can just very briefly explain the project, and we're going to be hopefully actually publishing it in July, but as part of I'm going to try to make this short. Okay, so every handful of years, the US Copyright Office opens up a sort of like call for people who want to make exemptions mostly to the DMCA, like the Digital Millennium Copyright Act is, they knew that when they did it, that it was going to be always changing. Like we lived, digital world is starting now. We don't really know what the copyright concerns of the future are going to be. So, we let people sort of pitch. At the last hearing, the Software Preservation Network, which is an organization that we work with sometimes, sort of headed the push to get the same kind of exemptions for video games that libraries and archives enjoy for all other types of media. So that maybe you don't know this, but I think a lot of people know that you don't have to go into a library to physically take a book off the shelf and take it home with you now. You can rent ebooks, you can rent movies digitally, all of that sort of stuff just through library systems. Your local library, your college library, specific archives and that sort of thing. Video games have been very specifically exempt from this, thanks to the lobbying of the Entertainment Software Association, the ESA, who represents sort of the video game industry. So this coming hearing, we want to make sure that we're coming adequately armed with like the real numbers, because the way this goes is like we're saying, hey, games aren't available, we're losing games, and companies don't have a lot of motivation to offer them other than their most profitable titles and that sort of thing, or rights are tied up and they can't or whatever, and so we are losing games. And because there's never been any like real numbers to back that up, I think the Copyright Office has just kind of sided with the interests of the game industry. So our big project was to determine just how many games, we're calling them historical games. And by that, we picked 2010 and before as just sort of like, these are games that are not, generally being sold anymore. They're not like modern, but they might be being, they might have a re-release. They might be on like the Nintendo Switch Online service or something like that. But they're not like, something that was made in the last couple of years. So therefore still probably on the market. And yeah, so I'll be publishing the results of that pretty soon. David put a lot of work into going through this giant set of data. We didn't look at literally every single video game ever. We, we had people who are good at making studies and stats and stuff review and make sure our methodology was sound and all of that. But thousands and thousands of games that we looked through to determine like how many can you actually go get legally right now. Obviously you can download ROMs from the internet, but like how many can you actually go and get right now? And yeah, without spoiling it, the numbers are real bad. They're really, really bad. And we're hoping that I'm not even gonna say hoping. We know this is going to be very, very useful in kind of pushing for greater exemptions for video game stuff, which is going to go a long way in making sure that we can actually preserve this stuff. Because libraries and archives, and I don't even necessarily mean us, I mean, we're not the most well-funded organization in the world. They're going to be able to put a whole lot of muscle and weight into these projects and making sure this stuff is available to people once it is legally allowed for them to do so.
And I'm wondering, Kelsey, if there's an opportunity, kind of before moving forward with some of these other questions, to take even one step back.
Sure.
And maybe set the stage for those who maybe have never heard of the Video Game History Foundation, what it is, how it came to be, how you came to be involved in it. And I would love to kind of understand maybe the remit, right, of the organization. What is the goal, the objective? And you've already talked a little bit about, like, hey, we are a non-for-profit. So maybe just giving us a little bit of a roadmap around that would be wonderful as well.
Yeah, totally. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We were founded in 2017. And the basic mission is that we want to preserve, celebrate, and teach video game history to people. The history part is very intentional. We actually don't collect video games at all. We are entirely an archive, a resource for people who want to tell the stories of video games. I came into this as someone, I used to have a YouTube channel, but I came into this as someone who really loved learning more about how games were made and why, certain things came to be. My specific niche is I really love the intersection of video games and like completely unrelated utilities. So like the Game Boy sewing machine, the Super Nintendo Exertainment bike, that sort of thing. And I was finding it so difficult to research these items. There was just no, there weren't a lot of magazines scanned online. There weren't a lot of like newspaper resources. There was certainly nothing from any of the developers or, just any sort of making of or like understanding why these products were made, how they were made. And I was really frustrated. And around that same time was when the foundation started. Our founder's name is Frank Cifaldi. He's been doing preservation stuff since like literally 1998. So he's been doing this for a very long time. But he started the foundation in 2017, kind of right at my apex of frustration. And so that's how I came to be involved. But yeah, everything we do is in service to making sure that we can help people tell those stories. So we have a physical archive. It's in Emeryville, California. We collect, we collect all the magazines and stuff, which is a very good, as we mentioned earlier, it's a really good just kind of snapshot of video game history, and a good thing to start with. We have archives from developers. So we have, documents that were used in the creation of the game, things like design documents, art, scripts,
that's really cool.
And we have in fact provided some of that stuff back to the companies who own that stuff because they've lost it. And so basically we just, if you're writing a book or an article or making a video or something about a game, you're going to need a lot more than just like a physical copy of that game to be able to tell that story. So think of us as the everything else archive other than that copy of the game, because we think that, video games have so many interesting stories to tell. And I think a lot more people would be telling them, and we'd have way more like books about video game history and articles and stuff if it was simply easier to access that stuff. So we have a physical archive. We are close to done building our digital archive, which is really exciting. And we do advocacy work, like with this copyright office thing, like with talking to video game companies. We do a pop-up museum every year at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which is my favorite retro show. If anyone has not been to that yet, you should. And some other things kind of along those lines, but that's sort of the did that answer your question? Is that enough?
Yeah, I think it's a great starting point. And I think the interesting part is, I'd be curious about the challenge. I'm sure there are a ton of challenges that you face as an organization. But I think it was interesting just like how you stay within scope of what your intent is. Because I think very quickly, video game history can be a catch-all for a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
And how as an organization, especially as a nonprofit with funding being limited, right, or challenging, how you properly exercise the resources and talents that you have. And then I think even to the commentary I'd be interested in before is, we know David is a volunteer. How many other volunteers do you have? Like what does your network of folks look like? How do you do this? How do you operate effectively? And how do you kind of keep scope with where you need to be?
Yeah, all really good questions. I mean, from a volunteer standpoint, I definitely feel like we are still growing into the interest level of the volunteers. Like we have more interested parties than we have like things ready for people to do, is what I'm getting at. And I really want to change that. And I feel like we're inching towards it at least, but it's definitely, it can be a challenge because there's a lot of things that, could be useful on site, especially. So if any listeners who are interested happen to be in the Emeryville, California area, that can be a good starting point. But for digital stuff, I mean, we've been kind of working on setting up a lot of those pipelines for a couple years now. I mean, it's one of those things that is a lot more difficult in an organization like ours than I think might be for like a shelter for animals or something like that. Like we don't have cages we need cleaned or anything like that. It's all, it can be kind of not even necessarily expert level work, but careful work. I mean, you don't want to have a completely random untrained person handling materials that are one of a kind, and so that's definitely something I think we're still growing into. Scope is a huge thing. We have no delusions that we are like the end all be all of video game history preservation. There is no way any single organization can do it by themselves. We work with other organizations, some of which are nonprofits, some of which are just like community led. Like the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York is one of my favorite examples. They're a fantastic museum and archive out there. And they come from like a more traditional museum backing. So, it's the Kodak widow. The Kodak widow was what made the Strong happen. So, there's a big trust there. And Gaming Alexandria is a sort of community-led one that we work with a lot. Hidden Palace, Hit Saves, another nonprofit organization. I mean, we're all sort of handling our own areas.
Right. And
I think, where we sit in that tends to be the way I describe it is like we sit right in the middle of the sort of two extremes. So you have the Strong Museum, which is a very traditional museum, by the books kind of organization. I mean, none of that in a bad way, but they play by the exact letter of the law rules, So if it's unclear that they can share something digitally, they won't. You'll have to go on site to Rochester to go look at it. Totally understandable. And then, on the other hand, you have something like the Internet Archive, which anyone can just kind of upload anything to. And of course, you can issue a cease and desist and get stuff taken down, but they're willing to just kind of host whatever people put up there, at least until they're told otherwise. Ask forgiveness, not permission.
Right.
That's how we got started. We used to upload episodes to them.
There you go. And we exist somewhere in the middle because we find that a lot of people who want to, or at least are, interested in preserving their history in the video game industry. So, we speak to a lot of former developers and retired developers and that sort of thing. Is, they're still at least like somewhat concerned about their old NDAs. They're not exactly sure what their what extent their legal protections are. We do our best to help with that. And I think we exist in between this, like, throw it up on the internet for literally anyone, and you have to come to Rochester, New York in person to access any of this stuff, or it's sealed for 20 years or whatever. We're, the digital archive we're building is a really good middle ground for that, where, it's meant to be a more intentional, like, researcher focused place to put something, where it's not just thrown up and can be duplicated 1,000 times on the internet, but it is available for anyone who actually wants to engage with it and receive it. And so, right now the way we operate is can be a little janky because you are either coming into the office or just simply emailing me. Like, I will do research for you. I will pull things for you up until this is up and running and everything. But
I have this mental image in my head of those scenes you see in movies, like Gandalf when he went to go research the One Ring. Like, we have people who are going to make a trek out to Rochester, New York, and do research on video game history because they have to know about something that's, been lost to history. And then you guys have the information they need, so.
Yeah. And the other thing too is we're also willing to do the other kind of middle ground we're in is, something like the Internet Archive doesn't do a lot of, like, with the exception of Jason Scott, who does a lot of their digitization stuff. He will sometimes do this personally, but the Internet Archive doesn't, like, knock on people's doors and it's like, what do you have? We want to put it in our archive. And then the Strong is again more, and I'm just using these two as like placeholder. Like, there's other people that operate these two extremes, but when we did that Game Informer trip, we went there, we lived there for 5 weeks and completely embedded in there, doing all of that digitization, not without any assurance that we would be able to ever distribute this stuff, that we would ever be like considered the owners of it. And for us, you know, we can be very agile and just kind of scrappy and be like, well, it's really important that this gets done. So even if, you know, we don't have the answer for it today, it's not literally donated to us today, or whatever, like someone's got to digitize it, someone's got to save it, and we can kind of figure out the answer to those questions later. And so we do a lot of that sort of in between work where we're, you know, an official 501c3 nonprofit. People know our names. We're, you know, you can trust us, but we are also able to be a little bit more agile and scrappy and kind of, you know, fill in where we need to and reach out to developers and, hey, you got some stickers. Well, you guys, I mean, I haven't even said this yet, and you guys have been so modest, but you guys have donated to our winter fundraiser every year. So thank you so much for doing that. Being a big part of
Tim,
all of this work.
Yeah, Tim can share that. Tim was the one that did that. And again, I'd actually just like flip that around to actually like that's our community, right? That's the Nintendo Dads community. That's the Patreon support that we provide. Of course, it helps us keep our lights and our mics on, but you know, when we find a cause that we believe and support it and believe is critical, then we want to make sure that we're supporting that. And Tim, that was something you did, so I'd love for you to talk more about that also.
Yeah, it's something that people like David and others in the community have, you know, and also with, like I mentioned before, Kelsey, I watched you in your other podcast before, so I learned about the Video Gaming History Foundation from you, as well as others in the community. So with that and learning about with your fundraisers, I was like, hey, this would be great for, like Justin said, yes, it's the Nintendo dads kind of doing it, but it's like he said, the community who backs us because they're the ones who fund us to be able to do that for you guys. So it's basically just all of us in the video game world just being there for each other. So that's
well,
all
it's incredibly appreciated. It's very sweet of you guys to do every year. It means a lot to us. And because we're still a pretty small organization, I mean, the money goes a lot further than you think. So
that's good.
Sure.
We're small too. So we're thankful that the little bit that we can give can help too. So
yeah. Tim, there's lots more questions, I think, right?
Yes, there is a ton of questions, but we'll get through what we can. Obviously, we know that everybody's got limited time, but we'll get through what we can here. So let's get to a community question. Actually, Hoots is one that apparently is also follows you in places, Kelsey, such as the Deepest Dive. He says, I'll be curious to see if you finish Tears of the Kingdom before the rest of your Deepest Dive cohorts. After your glowing...
I don't think so.
Right. I know. That's what I'm having problems with too. So after your glowing review of the Xenoblade 3's DLC, I know what I'm doing once Hyrule's safe. But considering my hour count and where I left off in Xenoblade's story, I think it's going to take a while. What's the secret to playing these massive games efficiently without cheapening or missing out on a part of the experience?
Oh my gosh, I wish I had a good answer for this. My actual answer is I just get obsessed for an unhealthy period of time. And it's like, I don't sleep very well for the week that I'm putting in, 30 hours on something. And it's just,
that sounds about right for many of us. Yeah.
I don't have an efficient method. I'm very chaotic. I'm sorry.
Yep. Especially just life in general gets in the way, whether you're a parent or not, and you got this, multiple things going on as far as jobs or volunteering. It's kind of hard to find that time to play these things. So anybody else want to answer that? Take a stab at that question about what's the secret to playing these massive games efficiently?
Don't.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
That's probably the most efficient way is don't do it. It's a bad idea. So
take it a little bit at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. I actually didn't finish Breath of the Wild because of that reason. Because there was so much to do and so many places to go. After I think I beat 2 dungeons, I threw in the towel because I was like, I can't. It's just too much. I don't think that's going to happen with Tears of the Kingdom because of all the new mechanics and I feel like they made it more gamey. I don't really know how to explain that, but I feel like there's more that you can do immediately, like almost like, okay, it's right here. I can go do this. I could play for a little while and put my Switch to sleep, you know, or I could, you know, pick it back up. I felt like I couldn't really do that with Breath of the Wild. I don't know if that was just me, but
It makes sense.
You know, I think it's totally okay to there are games that I'm never going to finish and I still adore them. Like I will never finish Elden Ring. Still one of the best games of last year. I had a great time playing it. I'm satisfied with, you know, I got my money's worth. You don't have to finish things. It's totally okay.
That is a great point. And something that some people give other people a headache about around here. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Not these guys. In our Discord community, it took me about 5 years to get through Breath of the Wild. I didn't finish it until last year. So to get ready for Tears of the Kingdom. So the community, you know, teased me a bit about that. But if I started diverting my attention to other games, I you know, they would post a Zelda crying picture, you know, because I wasn't playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or something like that. So
I don't want to say our community are bullies. It just seems rude, but
they're they're funny. They're funny. So, all right, great. That was a great question, Hoots. Thank you for that very much. Here's another question for the both of you, Kelsey and David, and then maybe Justin and Jesse. We'll see. What is your all-time favorite game, and has that ever changed?
I keep answering everything first. So David, you take this one first.
It's a very sentimental game just because I played it with my dad back in the day. I don't know if anybody knows Solomon's Key for the NES.
Yep.
That game in particular was one of the first games that I played with my dad. And I just remember, you know, there's all the different rooms that you have to go through. And I just remember the music and like sitting there with my dad and trying to figure out each level as we went. So that holds like a special place in my heart that, you know, we just spent so much time. I have the Famicom version of that game. I have the complete boxed NES version, and I have my original version from when I grew up. And I actually even have the rental box with the rental sticker on the outside, along with they used to back in the day print out the manuals and staple them together. I actually have that from the video game store.
Until they got sued by Nintendo.
Yeah. So that is my all-time favorite game, just for sentimental reasons.
Sentimental reasons can be a big factor for sure.
Yep, definitely.
So I take it that's never changed then, right? It's just that game, and it's always been that
from way back in the day. You know, that's and hopefully my kids, when they grow up, they'll have one of those games that they can remember playing with me. You know, down the line.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic dad answer. Thank you very much. Kelsey, how about you?
I have always struggled with this question because I do feel like it's just kind of like a blob of great games at the top. But I've started answering pretty definitively that it's Animal Crossing, the GameCube version.
Okay.
And it's something that was very huge for me developmentally. Like it was just a really big game at the right point in my life. I became a moderator on an Animal Crossing forum site, and it just kind of became a big part of my like early internet comeuppance. And and now I have written a whole book about it, which is not out quite yet, but will hopefully be out later this year. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. You'll have to come on and talk about your book when it becomes available.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah. It's being published by Boss Fight Books, which does a bunch of awesome stuff like that. It leans pretty heavy into, the history, obviously, and then also just sort of the game design and philosophies and lots and lots of, I am a voracious researcher, so I turned over a lot of stones that I think that, Nintendo doesn't really give interviews, but I think I managed to make a pretty darn interesting collection of stories and stuff with this anyways, because, I talked to people like the guy who made the logo, the person who made the website, just all kinds of fun auxiliary stuff that it all goes into the game at the end of the day.
That's pretty cool. So is this a natural progression from when you used to do the videos and do all that research for the videos on certain things?
Yeah, I have always liked the research and the writing part much more than the video part.
Okay.
I basically started the YouTube stuff because I figured that I figured it was the easiest way. Nothing's easy, but the easiest way to get people to listen to the stories and learn about them. I didn't have
Right.
a good like blog to post stories on and stuff. So a YouTube channel seemed like the right call. And I
It
think,
was an outlet for you. That makes sense.
yeah, I was able to teach a lot of people about why the Game Boy sewing machine isn't all that ridiculous, actually. And, and I think that, but yeah, my favorite part of all of that was always the research and the writing. I would much rather write books about video game history than make videos, but you get the message out there however you can.
Cool. Very cool. All right. Just going over some of the questions here. You kind of answered some of them when you guys were talking about the Video Game History Foundation. So
yeah, I'm good at opening my mouth and then just
no.
It comes out until
We've
until I've
never heard
covered
of this.
everything.
We've never heard of that problem before.
So we were just talking about the, being able to play Tears of the Kingdom efficiently, but overall, are you guys finding it more challenging to find gaming time because of things like volunteering or your day jobs and things like that? Do you guys find it harder to find time to play games?
Yeah, I've never played games less in my life than running game stores and working at the Video Game History Foundation. I still make some time for it, but there's definitely it comes in seasons, Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm able to make some time, and then there are weeks where it's like I'm lucky to get 30 minutes after work a day.
Makes sense. David, yours is just about, whatever the kids tell you to do, right? So
Yeah. Whenever there's
I mean,
a
that
few
sounds
minutes,
harder to me.
thank God for the Switch and the portability. I actually just got the OLED, the Zelda Switch.
yeah, I saw that
be-
picture that you had on the coffee table
Yeah.
or the side table or whatever. Yeah.
I actually brought my regular Switch to work the other day, and the screen isn't as nice as the OLED, and I was having trouble. I was tilting my Switch in different angles, like the old school Game Boy, like trying to get the best light, and I was like, no, I can't do this. So I took my original Switch and traded it in and got the OLED, which helps because you find a few minutes here, a few minutes there, and usually I come home and with kids, they'll tell you
Mhm.
about their games and how they're doing. It's, oh, I found this, I did this, and my son could tell me he beat Pikmin 3 for like the 8th time and Paper Mario for like the 9th time. I'm like, oh, what happened? He's like, I beat the Red Streamer today, and I'm like, oh, good job.
Nice. And Hoots was wondering about how to do things efficiently. There you go. Playing little bits at a time here or there. That's why you have a Switch. Bring it with you. Play where you can. That makes sense. All right. Well, that's all the questions. Did you guys have any questions, Jesse or Justin? Do you have anything that you wanted to ask? While you guys are thinking, I'll ask one more question too. So actually, there's one more. Robbie Bobby Miller actually was in the chat, and I think he's another big follower of you, Kelsey. And he asked, or he had said, I heard David Jaffe from Twisted Metal prank called Pink Gorilla one time. Is that true?
He did. It was like last week, I think, and got one of our lovely newer employees on the phone, and she was so professional. I literally, after that video went up, I have mixed feelings about the creator of Twisted Metal prank calling my store, but I love that he loves it. That's great. But yeah, I literally like Venmo'd her $20. I was like, you made us look great, so let me buy you lunch at least.
So there's a video on this out there. Is that what you're saying? I didn't know
There
that.
is. It's
okay.
on David Jaffe's channel, and
Okay.
I don't know what the title is called, but it was just last week, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find. But yeah, he prank called
That's
the
hilarious.
store and was just asking some strange questions about Tears of the Kingdom and about racist games. I couldn't quite follow, because he was, he's pranking, so he's clearly
Yes.
doing a bit, but I couldn't quite follow the whole thing. But the important thing was that it was an excellent A-tier interaction, and now I get to put that on my tombstone that David Jaffe prank called my store. So
I actually do have a couple questions. I'd love for you to kind of direct all of our audience and people like where to go to support and donate and how they can help you the best. Because there's people wondering like, hey, if they wanted to jump in and volunteer and just support your cause, how we can effectively. I would love to kind of understand and maybe hear. It sounds like there has been a lot of fantastic work done in your organization, continues to grow. Is there anything that like you are maybe the most proud of?
Yeah. Well, the Game Informer project was huge. I mean, we built a robot disc farm of, and ripped 12,000 press discs and stuff. And I mean, just the sheer amount of stuff we got through on that trip was incredible. But I've already talked about that, so I'm going to talk about some of the other really cool stuff. We do a lot of work with video game source code, which is, just sort of like the things that go into the actual creation of the game. It's, all the little pieces, all the ingredients of the cake, and then the instructions on how to make the cake, and you put it all together and you get the cake. And so we think that's like, one of the most volatile things in game preservation, and also one of the most useful things, because it means that, games can be more easily understood, more easily ported even, and gives people like a really, if you know how to kind of comb through it, you can learn a lot of things about the game. So we've uncovered some really cool kind of like cut content, behind the scenes content from a lot of stuff by going through source code. But we've also actually rebuilt completely lost games from source code we found. So, developers maybe had like a floppy disk backup of some stuff on their computer. And in there was just, the pieces to create a game that no one's ever seen before. And so we've actually done that a couple of times. We resurrected a lost MLB themed sequel to NBA Jam, which is it's on our website. It's all like on GitHub and playable and everything. I mean, the coolest one was rebuilding the Sega VR, which was a Sega's 90s never released foray into VR, because they thought they could do VR in the 90s for some reason. And so we actually just had the source code for a game, and our brilliant digital conservationist, Rich Whitehouse, was able to take that source code, and from that, figure out what the VR would have functioned like, and how it was like, calling this code and what it was looking for and everything. And so he actually made it completely playable on the HTC Vive. So you can just play like the game on, how it would run on a Sega VR in a modern VR thing. So that is that's like awesome. One of the cool, that's magic to me. Yeah. I'm not technical enough to understand even how how he was able to do something like that, but so when you have incredible.
A moment like that, right, which is anyone who's ever been an artist or created something, this idea of I've spent time, energy, passion, right, resourcing around this idea, and it doesn't come to fruition, right, whether it's throwing in the actual bin or the recycle bin or just on a floppy disk, to then literally extract that, build, finish it off and have it ready. Were you able to go back to where you got it from and said like, hey, was this what you meant to do? And get them to try it? What are those reactions like? Because I would imagine it's incredible.
Yeah, in this case, we were provided the source. The person who found the source actually was with Gaming Alexandria, which is another awesome preservation organization, and we sort of worked together on this. They provided that to us, and yeah, we did end up. That all happened on their end, the sort of showing it to the donor part, but we've had a lot of other times where we've been able to sort of resurrect stuff and show it back to people, and really cool to reunite developers with their work. And we've had some other times too where that MLB NBA Jam one I just referenced, the developer that for that unfortunately passed away, and we were dealing with the widow's kind of collection of her husband's stuff, so we weren't able to reunite him with that, unfortunately, but we were able to show the family and everything. And it's really cool being able to reunite people with stuff that they've worked on before. It's definitely fun.
That's super cool. The other question I would have is what is the level of support that you currently receive from the industry itself? So I think of, I know your placement is up in the Seattle area, right? Redmond's not too far away, right? You would think that potentially, Nintendo or Microsoft or any of those players, how do they help you out? You would think, and I was suspecting that was where that was going, but I was just curious.
Laughably small, unfortunately, is the answer. We've had a lot of amazing support from like indie developers and basically people who believe in the importance of this, and then are a small enough organization where like giving a charity money is one person's decision, rather than like a whole committee and all of that. So we did do, Microsoft has paid us to speak to some of their employees. So that was, one way that they've been able to support us. But we've had a lot more support from smaller companies and smaller studios where, it can be someone who works there's just total passion and, they believe in it. So just off the top of my head, like Iron Galaxy, Panic, Other Ocean, Studio MDHR gave us our biggest gift we'd ever received from a corporation last year. And that's especially cool because they're Canadian. So I don't even think they get the full tax write-off that other organizations would get. So we've even had a couple of Japanese studios support us. Now it's like Q Games and Chuhai, both of which are run by British expats, but still very really cool to have some support from not just the US. So we are super, super thankful for the people in the industry that get it and support us. I think we'll eventually get to a point where we get a little bit more support from some slightly larger players. We've certainly supported some of the larger players in terms of helping reunite them with some of their lost things. They dislike when I say this, but I never signed an NDA. So we provided Disney some of their old source code back to them when they did the Lion King Aladdin re-release. So,
nice.
This is,
and I'm sure in the re-release there's a big commentary that says thank you to the Video Game History Foundation for their support.
Totally, yeah, for sure.
Cool.
But yes, obviously that's the ideal someday, is that's the kind of symbiotic relationship we'll have with the industry. And I think that we're getting there, and more people who are at these companies are starting to, really understand the importance, not just culturally, because obviously, that's what we're all about, but even economically, like if you want to re-release a game, you got to keep your stuff, you'll need to do some preservation so we're seeing a lot more organizations that employ an archivist now, which is cool. It doesn't mean a whole lot for, sharing that with the rest of the world, but it is way easier to, seek permission later for something that at least has been preserved and exists than to worry about whether it exists in the first place, So it's something. We're getting there.
Yeah. Well, it feels like the general conversation or the tenor around video games has changed, right? Everything over the last 10 to 15 years. And I think we see more kind of exploration of games from the past. I think the work that like No Clip does in regards to documentaries, right? And I think some of it just seems like there's more content out there regarding not only current video games and documentaries of it, but also just like, hey, I developed this game back in 1995 and here's a dust or a box I dusted off. So it seems like the conversation continues to grow, but I think that's where organizations like your own help to stabilize it, right? And create a value across the organization.
Totally. Yep.
That's great.
You were just mentioning about one of the things, like what you would think was covered under, like what you've seen, Justin, in the past few years in regards to content, like documentaries, books, and stuff like that. And actually on the website, the gamehistory.org website, they actually did, they have some reports. I'm just waiting for it to load on the books there just aren't that many video game history books out there, as any visit to a bookstore would tell you. So there's 45% film and TV, 51% in music, and 4% games.
Yeah, and this was just from a sampling we got. But yeah, I mean, it's, if you go to, I tell people just go into Barnes and Noble, go look at the like music section, which is full of biographies and like just deep dives into stuff. Yeah. Go to the movie section, which is also full of director biographies, actor biographies. Yeah, all these analyses. Go to the video game
section. It's one little.
It's one tiny all art books.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
Like actual like stories or history. It's 90% art books, and there's like one shelf with like half a section.
Yeah, there's usually like one of Jason Schreier's books, like Blood, Sweat, and Pixels or something. There is Console Wars, maybe, and maybe one other, but like
the Hyrule history book.
I like how we're all like, can I have that book? I have that. Yeah, those are all the books that are out there, right?
The documentaries you were talking about, 51% are about music, 47% are about film and TV, and 2% are about games.
Yeah, and this is from when we relaunched the website, which I believe was 2019-ish or 2020, so it's probably slightly outdated, but and we're getting people are releasing new, like, books are happening now. It's starting to we're really just we're really just at the very beginning of the ramp right now. So
I wanted to point that out though too. So if anybody out there listening who's into doing any of these type of things, writing, filming, documentaries, look into gaming, see if there's a topic there that you can cover.
And I think it's an important time too, because I know, a lot of the people that were alive and made games in the 70s, 80s, if you think about it, that they're at the age now where they're in their 60s, 70s, and possibly even 80s. And I think there's a lot of history and a lot of stories that can be told from those people that were in the gaming industry in the 80s and the 70s and early 90s, that I feel like a lot of it's going to get lost to time if we don't do the work now, because it's at a crucial period, before, God forbid, people pass away and things get thrown away, or, game developers, studios get closed, or, I think it's at a crucial time where we should be doing the work, or at least starting to do the work and having conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tell people, just start where you're at. Like, if you want to start doing video game historical work, even if you're just kind of publishing it on a blog, on a small YouTube channel or something, like, just getting that work out there is a really, really important first step. And follow whatever your interests are. One of my favorite ways to start with that is like, are there any video game studios around you? We, on the Video Game History Hour podcast, we interviewed someone who did just that in Iowa, where there was exactly one game studio, and he wrote a real long thing about them. And, that's something that I don't think Budcat Studios was probably going to get a whole lot of recognition otherwise. So I think that's a fun place to start with that.
That's awesome.
I was actually just looking over your website as well. And again, folks, head over to gamehistory.org. Your team, fantastic amount of experience on your executive board, but I also very much love the fact that you have those industry advisors as well, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully those are people who can help you with some of those connections, right? Hopefully open some of those doors to some of those major players that you've worked with, and they know the right people as well. It's fantastic. It's a really great resource that you have here.
A shout out to Howard for being on there too.
Yep, Howard Phillips himself. He puts on the bow tie for us sometimes, so
yes,
we appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, I think you asked this earlier. He doesn't like to talk about that.
Probably not.
And just to come full circle on your earlier question, I mean, but you can learn more about us at gamehistory.org. If you are interested and able to make a donation to help keep us sustainable, I mean, that's awesome. We do have a Patreon, and that is a really useful kind of benchmark for us for, just figuring out what we can kind of take on and what our sustainability is going to be. So even if you're like, I can only give $2 a month, it's like, okay, but now we know those $2 are coming every month, and that adds up really fast for a small org like us. So that's huge. And yeah, we're on all the social media and everything. And you can also kind of listen to what we're up to and listen to us talk about video game history on the Video Game History Hour. If you're interested in volunteering, by all means, feel free to reach out. Just info@gamehistory.org or Kelsey@gamehistory.org to talk to us about it. It's helpful if you include like some kinds of work that you're either good at or willing to do or something, if like David was awesome, like, look, I'll do data entry, I don't care, like give me anything. But yeah, if you're a graphic designer or a web developer or whatever, all of those things can be very useful. So hopefully that covers all of that part.
It does. And folks, the donation button is real easy to find. It's the top
Upper
right corner. It's
yeah.
big yellow. It's right there. Don't tell me you can't find it when you go on the website.
Yes.
All right. And looking at it, they take all kinds of money, PayPal, all kinds of donations. So,
and it's all tax deductible.
To say, folks, it's tax deductible. Y'all don't like taxes. Look to lower your taxes. Give. That's the way to do it. So,
all right. Thanks very much for answering all those questions and giving us an overview of the Video Game History Foundation and how you guys are involved with it. And also thanks for giving a way for people to get involved as well. Mm-hmm. But besides that, how do the people get a hold of you if they want to follow you or just chit chat about games in general with you guys?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter @Lewin for as long as Twitter keeps existing. I'm on Blue Sky as well. Same handle. If anyone's starting to, that's my first time saying that on a podcast, but I wonder if that one's going to catch on.
Never heard of that
and one. It's good. You know what? It's my favorite of the Twitter clones that's been floating around. So we'll see. And then Twitter is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me right now, other than email, which is just Kelsey@gamehistory.org. Yeah, I think those are probably my two easiest contact methods.
Nice. David, how about you?
I'm at Twitter @KoopaKid80. And that's pretty much it. If you want to follow me, we'll talk video games and anything else.
Or come hang out with them in our Discord.
Yeah, we'll talk in the Discord. But don't worry about following me. Go check out Video Game History Foundation. Go donate. Go do whatever you can. Video game preservation is important. I always tell people, do you like movies? And then people say yes. So do you like books? Do you like music? Video games is all that put together and interactive. Yes. Unlike movies, books, and music, video game preservation, there's a lot of blockades and things getting in the way of preserving certain things. My son can rent a Rambo or every Sylvester Stallone movie, but if he wants to play every Kirby game or every Pikmin game, you have to jump through hoops or hook up old systems, and it should be easier for people to access games and the stories behind them. So go check out Kelsey and thegamehistory.org and help make a difference.
Awesome.
Well said.
Thank you. Now, Kelsey, I know you have to get going, so we appreciate your time joining us. But before you leave, if you don't mind, can you share with everybody what you've been playing? If it's just Tears of the Kingdom, then so be it. But if there's anything else you're playing, I'm sure they'd like to know.
It's just Tears of the Kingdom right now. I will get back to Octopath Traveler 2. I'm saying that out loud to make it more real, because that's what I was playing leading up to Tears of the Kingdom. But that's really all I'm playing right now.
All right, that's fair. But then thanks again for coming on our show, Kelsey. We're very appreciative and honored to have you on our show. And you guys are always welcome to come back on and talk more about video game history and the foundation. And when your book comes out, you're welcome to join us, talk and promote that as well. So
thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right. So with that, David, you're welcome to hang around too if you like, but if you have to go, I know you've got kids around. So
I can hang out. Kids are sleeping. Wife's sleeping.
All right.
I'm good.
Sweet. Do it. All right. So let's move on to our events. All right, our events we got going on is the usual, which is Discord community events, and that is the table for one, and that's every third Friday of the month at 10 p.m. Eastern time. The community gets together at the table, otherwise known as the Discord voice chat room, to discuss whatever it is on everyone's minds. This past one that we did this month, we actually got to play some poker. We messed around with the Discord activities function in the chat, which was pretty interesting. Unfortunately, one of the people that came on, Chris HL, his phone couldn't handle it. His phone blew up and he turned into a superhero. And now we don't get to see him very much anymore because he's flying off to save people in Canada. Didn't you guys know about that? No?
No.
Okay. So anyways,
That's from all the radiation in the phone?
yes. Every third Friday of the month, you can join us. So in June, we got the third Friday that you can join at 10 p.m. for the next dinner table. So if you want to join, all you got to do is subscribe to us via Patreon or Twitch and get access to Discord and join in on the schwack load of events like the table and monthly mayhem. Speaking of monthly mayhem, we have still going on our Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom monthly mayhem that the Dads After Dark show is running for us. And as usual, they always run a great monthly mayhem. This one, again, is a Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom one where you have to take screenshots, one for Dads After Dark content, or Life is Good, or Dumb Ways to Die, or one for random drawing. You just have to submit it in our Discord. And again, in order to be able to get into our Discord, you have to be either a Patreon subscriber or a Twitch subscriber. If you win any of the monthly mayhem stuff, winners get a winner from each category gets a $10 eShop card, and one random person will win $10 for entering. All right, that's it for events. Let's move on to what we've been playing. As we do all the time when we have a guest on, we let them go first. So Justin, you get to go first because you're our guest. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. David, you get to go.
I've been playing lots of Tears of the Kingdom. I've probably put in about 25 hours. I've beat 2 dungeons. And today I was in a dark cave and I spent 20 minutes building a vehicle, and this big frog just ate the vehicle and killed me. So I have to go back and take another crack at that frog. But yeah, he ate my big, huge, nice vehicle and he just sucked it in and killed me. So
wow, I didn't know there were frogs that ate contraptions you made. That's interesting. All right, I got to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I couldn't. I didn't believe it when I saw it. I built it nice, and he decided to eat it. And my son, he's like, "Daddy, he ate your car." I'm like, "Yes, he also killed me." But yes, just a lot of Tears of the Kingdom.
Nice. Nothing else in there? Just all Tears of the Kingdom?
Actually, yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Mario Maker on the Wii U. My youngest wanted to try that out. So he's on there making boards and we're having fun with that. And then there's a game called Murtop that came out on the Switch. It's $4. It's like a Dig Dug style type game. I don't know if anybody heard of that, but I like Dig Dug and old arcadey type games. So I've been having fun with that.
Okay.
Never heard of that, but I might give it a look.
Yeah, we're all like looking it up right now. Like
it's like a little rabbit, Dig Dug style.
Is this? Yeah, this wasn't. It looks like an arcade you'd see in the early '80s.
Yes,
but it says copyright 2019. So
it's kind of a mix of Dig Dug and Bomberman. As the rabbit digs down, he lays bombs behind him. And I think it's on sale at the eShop for $4 right now. So everybody.
I was just getting ready to fix that too, Jesse. Yeah, I was sitting there trying to type it, and then we both tried to fix it at the same time on our dock. All right, cool.
Yeah, I am fast at the copy and paste.
All right, thanks for sharing that, David. That's awesome. Justin, what you been playing?
I have just been playing Tears of the Kingdom, and I am 15 hours in is what my little timer says, because we've all been checking that this week. This game, just like everybody else, I am completely obsessed with. I have had just a fantastic time experience with it. Where I am, so without giving spoilers, I am at the first dungeon for sure. And I have lit up 2 or 3 towers. So that's where I am there. I have 5 hearts and just a little bit of extra stamina. I find this game is, I'm going on adventure, I'm going on a quest. Oh, what's over there? I'm going on an adventure, going on a quest. Oh, what's over there?
Right.
And so I find at times I'm like, no, go back. You've got it. Like, focus up, kid, focus up and just do the thing. But I'm absolutely loving every moment of it. I'm not super great at craft. I mean, my building right now is just some simple things, right? I was like, I will put 2 of these pieces of metal together and I will put a balloon on it and I will float up. And that's good enough for me right now. Not superly overly complex on things. This game has the ability to make me feel like an absolute genius and an absolute idiot all in the same 60 seconds.
Right.
Early on, when you're kind of on the floating islands at the very, very top, and you're first getting to fuse, and there's this area you have to go over, and you're like, oh, you just fuse together the logs and you create a bridge, and you put the bridge over this and you walk across with the logs. And I was short on my bridge, and then the bridge fell off and it fell down, and I was like, I can't get it back. Oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And I spend time trying to like chop down trees and bring stuff over, and then look at the ledge, and the ledge kind of goes down, and then there's a spot I can land, and then just climb back up the other side.
I think I did the same
and
thing.
I was like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. And then there's been other times I have like sat in a room, I'm like, I don't know how to finish this. I don't know, like, I can't, how do I get there? And I'm like, why am I not just using Ascend? Like it does. It just makes you feel like you're both smart and stupid all at the same time. And there are also like shrines that I've got to that I don't think should be overly complicated. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, why? What am I doing here? How does this open? Like, it's been a real emotional journey. It's been an emotional journey for the last 15 hours, but I've just been loving it.
I think I have like 4 or 5 shrines I've unlocked, and like, I don't know. I'll go back to this later.
Yeah.
Do you like the shrines better in this Tears of the Kingdom than Breath of the Wild? I feel like I like the shrines better this time around. They feel more like logic based, as opposed to Breath of the Wild. There was a lot of like pick the ball up and move the ball and rotate your switch and all this.
Yeah, I haven't discovered any of those. There have been ones where there was one where you, again, sort of spoiler alert, you have to like bat a ball. And that one I struggled with for a bit. I was like, what am I missing here? Like, how am I not turning these things on? And then I was like, oh, okay, click, there it is. But yeah, for the most part, I've been really, I think they've been really good shrines. There's only been like, there's been 2 that I've walked in, spent like 5 minutes, and I'm like, and exit. I'm like, nope, we're coming back to you later, because my brain is not willing to do this right now. So
at least you can warp to incomplete shrines. I don't know if you could in the first game.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh yeah.
So that does help.
Yeah, I've just been loving it. Just like I said, just got to the first dungeon, and that's a real journey to get there. That is
for a bit. I thought that was the dungeon.
Yeah, that is cool. That is really cool.
So, has anybody seen a Gleeok yet? The 3-headed dragon?
Oh, I've come across about 5 of them.
I ran. As soon as I saw it, I ran the other way. I was like, nope, not happening.
I have done a lot of like looking at some of these, like the area I'm at right now. There is a boss, big stone boss, and I didn't quite get close. I got close enough to him that it triggered the title of the boss, and the energy bar came across, and I was like, nope, we're not doing this. And there is no reason I have to. I'm going to go around you. And that's what I did. Yeah. Because I was like, I'm not wasting. I also don't feel like I ever have enough arrows. I never feel like I have enough arrows ever.
Have you guys come across any of those videos? I'm sure you're trying to avoid a lot of stuff to prevent any spoilers, but battle videos where somebody who's hooked up with all kinds of stuff is doing like flips using contraptions they made, flying up with their glider, shooting arrows in slow motion, then flipping again and back onto their contraption, and just, doing all these like recall things and ascend things, all in all, just to beat this one monster. And I'm just like, what the heck? And I'm not even that far yet. So I'm like, what is going on here?
I have loved the meme ability of it.
Yes.
Right? Like the killing Koroks, like launching into space. I did see one get crucified recently. That felt weird.
Yes.
I've also
I saw somebody put a bunch of them in a wagon and was just going around.
Yeah. Someone from IGN did that.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I also saw like people made like torture boxes where it's just a box and they've got like some kind of like laser thing that goes around, and they just like drop it on a camp of bogoblins and just like hit it, and it just like you almost feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad
just watching this massacre of it's crazy.
It's incredible. Like it's so funny because like a little bit of like behind the scenes curtain, just for those of you that are Nintendo Dads fans, we're still getting game codes, right? And we're like, all right guys, games have come in, who wants to play? And like it's like tweet, like it's just silent. And I'm like, so anybody not want to play? Anyone just want to take like an hour break from Tears of the Kingdom just to try something different?
Crickets.
So yeah, it's the only thing I really want to play. We have got codes, and I'm kind of like, okay, I will go do codes, but I'm not interested in anything. I'm just like, yeah, let's just keep playing this. It's just too much, right? Too much fun right now. To be honest, like I know Andros like powered the game in a weekend. I don't understand why. I know it's for content, I know it's all that, but like the conversations that we get to have are where I find the most joy.
Yeah.
Right. About the community experience. Did you do this? Have you tried that? What about this? Where are you? Oh my gosh. Right. Like, have you seen this dragon thing? No, but I don't want to. Right.
Like, updated the spreadsheet lately.
No, I haven't updated. Listen, Jesse, I barely update normal spreadsheets. All right. And then you're asking me how many shrines I found. Get out of here. Right. So yeah, that's what I've been playing.
Jesse, we were talking earlier about this. So about Tears of the Kingdom. How are you doing in it?
I'm almost 40 hours in and getting kind of frustrated with it. I feel like I'm getting, if I try to explore, I end up in an area where I'm still one rounded and I have 10 hearts. So I'm like, okay, I feel like I need to beef up myself somehow, but I don't know how. I found the locations of two locations that will upgrade armors, but they don't want to talk to me until they hear music. I'm like, I don't know where the musicians are. So that's out of the question.
What about just loading up on a bunch of yellow heart meals?
Well, I can sleep at a stable and get 3 extra hearts and an extra stamina wheel, but that doesn't last long.
Well, I mean, like making meals though that give you like 12 extra hearts or something like that.
I haven't really done much with the meals. I probably should, but it's all yeah. So there are things I'm liking about it. Like one of the shrines. Like, have you seen a shrine that didn't have the rock in the middle?
Yes. There's a green jewel that you have to find and bring it back to the shrine.
Yeah. So I came across one of those, and if you find the green jewel first, it'll draw a beam to where it needs to go. If you find the shrine first, it'll draw a beam to where the gem is. So I'm kind of glad it works both ways. So in this case, I found the shrine without the rock. He showed me where the gem was. It led me into a cave, and I enter the cave and I see the beam doing a little bouncy. I'm like, Hinox has the damn gem, doesn't it? And yep, it was a Hinox. So I'm like, I hate fighting these things. But at least I can kill them. There are other things out there that I can't kill yet. So I did eventually finish that shrine, but it was rough. Yeah, I'm currently kind of on the lookout for a stall horse so I can bring it into a stable to finish a side quest. But yeah, it's the main problem I have with this game is I'm very story motivated. Pokemon Arceus, 100 hours, story nonstop. Silver, Violet and Scarlet, 50 hours. Pretty good story filtered throughout. Dragon Quest games is all story. This game doesn't really have a story until the end. So it's really hard to play when you don't have a story motivating you. At least me.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's what
So
when we were talking about this in pre-show, I asked you, were you having fun with this game?
yeah, and I answered no. I don't think
Yeah.
I am. I'm sure I will eventually when I find the story. Yeah, I have a few memories, but if that's the extent of the story, like Breath of the Wild was, this is going to be a rough game.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought that was interesting because I wanted you to be able to share that opinion with everybody so that if anybody
But
else
it's
was feeling
wrong,
that
though.
same
He
way,
just has a wrong opinion, Tim.
if
I don't
anybody
understand
else
why
was
he had to
feeling the
share
same
it.
way, they could appreciate that Jesse shared that story and not
No,
feel like
no.
they should
About
love the
Johnny's
game.
asking if I did the glyphs. Yeah, I have 6 of them, so about halfway.
I don't
So
understand how
yeah,
you're a guy asking
and
for
again,
story when you
that's
can
where the memories come
play
from is the
Picross all the
glyphs.
day.
Was that?
I don't understand how you're a guy who's upset about story when you play Picross all day.
Well, that's a
Don't tell me there's a story in Picross.
Sometimes there is, but
I'm so regretting that I asked.
Yeah, sometimes there is, but yeah, it's a different type of game. I have a different mindset to play it. But for a game that is 100 hours plus, I need a little motivation.
I wonder what they were thinking when Nintendo made the game. The mindset of kind of leaving the story kind of in the gameplay. And I think a lot of that has to do with the experience that everybody's having with the game is kind of the story. And I know that doesn't really, have a real story
That
throughout
works for social people, but my circle of influence is this show and its community. I really don't talk to people outside of this much. So
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I wonder how what they were thinking when they did the follow up to Breath of the Wild, when they were thinking, should we make a more of a story in the gameplay, or should we just kind of keep it like Breath of the Wild, where it's kind of you'll see little vignettes and memories and kind of that route instead of an actual story throughout.
yeah, it's probably I think this is a holdover of Miyamoto's stance on storytelling in games.
Maybe, yeah.
So,
Very
I know
simple.
Anouma it does, and other people do try to squeeze in stories when they can. We've heard the story of Mario Galaxy and what happened with that, but they literally did it behind Miyamoto's back.
Right.
Miz
All
says
right.
this might be the best story ever. If only I can find it. I haven't found it yet.
Interesting. Yeah, what's guiding me in I guess the story so far is the, go find Zelda. So that's where I'm at in it right now. So I don't know if it changes at all or whatever, but I'm still at the beginning.
Funny, my son has more shrines and more dungeons done than I have, and he hasn't even found Impa. So he hasn't seen any of the story.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because that's basically where the story comes from, is the quest line starting with Impa. Okay. So I don't know how he's even going by that.
Okay.
Of course, he plays Valorant all day, so he doesn't need a story.
Right. That's about where my daughter's at too, is playing a lot of those type of games. So, all right. And like I said, I've been playing it too. I'll be actually playing a couple other games in this coming week, so you'll be able to hear me talk about that next week and look out for.
Maybe Tim, that's a great opportunity. Like you and I actually have a couple games that we're going to be previewing on the Nintendo Dads channel soon. Do you want to just give people let them know what those are? And I will grab mine and let people know. I actually have got a code for Planet of Luna on Xbox. So you can check out my first 30 minutes of that very soon. I'll also have a upcoming look at Fights in Tight Spaces. and Convergence, a League of Legends story. So those are 3 first looks that you're going to get from me probably in the next several days. So of course, tune into our YouTube channel and check out those first looks so that when you come out of your Tears of the Kingdom gaze and days and you're looking for something new to maybe just cleanse the palate, we've got a couple of games that we might be able to recommend for you. But Tim, what have you got on your docket?
I'll be playing Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun, which when I watched the trailer for that, looks like it's a throwback to the original Doom games, so but I mean graphics a little bit better, but not Doom 2016 or newer. I'm talking about like the older ones, Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 3, more pixelated type graphics. So that's why I was like, yeah, I'll take that. Yep. So I'll play that one. And then there's also a narrative type game called End of Lines that looked very interesting too. So every now and then I like checking out those, interactive narrative story games. So this one looked interesting. So I grabbed that one too.
And I know that Marty's going to have a first look at two different games for us. It's a Bat Boy, which just released today, which is a very Mega Man-esque game. And then what was the other game that came out also that's very Mega Man-esque?
That is Proto Droid Delta.
Yeah, so lots of coverage coming from Nintendo Dads HQ and our content creators in the coming week as well. So again, head over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so that when we put out our content, man, you are the first people to get it and watch it and share it. So that'd be great. Lots of content coming from us soon.
Yep. All right.
We're all coming off our hangovers from Tears of the Kingdom.
Or taking a break if need be.
Yeah.
So community spotlight. Let's go. All right. Shout out again to you, David, for coming by. You're part of our community. So, and thank you for hooking us up with Kelsey to stop by because thankfully for you, you said, "Hey, I'm a volunteer at the Video Game Foundation, Video Game History Foundation, and would love to see if I can help you guys get somebody on to talk about it." And I was like, "Yes." So yes, thank you very much, David, for that.
Thank you guys. I've been a listener and a follower for many years since my oldest, who's now 12, was in a toddler bed. So that just tells you how many years I've been listening. Been a patron for a couple of years now, and I've loved the show. It's meant a lot to me. Not to get into too much, my son is on the spectrum, and when he was diagnosed and everything was going on back in the Wii U days, your show meant a lot. So thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you to Marty, anyone that's, all the Nintendo dads, just thank you. It's meant a lot.
Yep. Yes, thanks. And thank you. Yeah, hearing about it from Marty too. And I listened when Marty came on and found out about his son being on the spectrum. And I was able to gravitate towards that as well because my son is as well. So, lots to talk about when that time comes. So very thankful to be able to hear other dads that have similar challenges still have time to play games too. So,
and he loves the show, by the way. He loves the show. He loves listening. So
awesome. What's his name? If you don't mind sharing.
Dave. Little Dave.
Little Dave. Hi, Little Dave.
What's up?
He loves your intro and the music. He wags his finger and does like the little dance. He loves it.
Nice.
But yeah, I used to sit in the toddler bed with him, playing the 3DS and listening to you guys. And it's been, I can't believe how many years ago that is now, but back in the Wii U days. So it's been what, 7 years.
Oh, you were listening when there was no real content, Dave.
Well, like I was saying,
we were really stringing for content back then.
Late 2014 is when these guys got started. So yeah, we're getting close to that 10-year mark, 2024. So
10-year anniversary.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So, and also shout out to everybody who's been listening in the live right now. Yep. So Robbie Bobby Miller stopped by, Ms. stopped by, Skinny Matt, Ebicel, all our usual, characters have stopped by.
Johnny, Mecca. I saw a new one called named Weekend Rental.
Yes. Bruce stopped by.
Friendo, Bruce was there. Yeah,
Fontez.
Yeah, Fontez.
So
Star Athena. I don't know. Yeah.
Yes. And some person named Laffer think I'm
Yeah,
pronouncing that right.
exactly.
I don't know about him. He's scary.
Is that Eric guy? Who that is?
Eric, I like
All right.
Yes.
Got
All
some
right. So
questions?
yeah, we got questions from the community. First up is from Darth Platypus on Discord. If you had to be stuck on a desert island, I'm afraid to ask this question. If you had to be stuck on a desert island with one dad, who would you want to be stuck with? David, you get to answer first. You're our guest.
Uh-oh. If I answer wrong, do I get kicked off?
There's
it
no
depen-
wrong answer.
Yes.
I'm gonna say probably Marty, because I think my video game, my likes and dislikes probably align with his the most, as far as like the Mega Man, Mario 3 platformers. Platformers were always my favorite. So I think I probably would be able to sit in front of a TV on a desert island and play games with him probably the most.
Nice.
But
That makes sense.
I'll take you all to the desert island.
All right, cool. Jesse, how about you? Who would
I would
you
say I don't know if anyone would want me around because I will be miserable and I will probably make your lives miserable too. But my answer would probably also be Marty if I.
Nice.
It's just like his like the interests I had when I was a kid and lined up with his. We were both Transformers guys and whatnot. So
Fantastic. Justin.
I am probably going to say Tim. I think we have a lot of interest and alignment outside of work also. That would probably be a healthy conversation. Also, I feel like having met both Marty and Jesse and Tim all together, Tim would be more apt to try and get us off the island, and maybe more resourceful to try and get us off the island. Yeah. So
Nice. All right. Going on to the next question. No, I
Tim,
guess
wait.
All right. I'll make it easy. I'll pick Justin, so it makes it back and forth. Since I agree too that we probably have a lot of chit chats. I don't know, maybe if we hopefully there's like a keg or something that we can get that comes to the island with us, and we'll be able to share a pint or two while we're there.
good.
So yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So all right, great question, Darth Platypus. We'll have to see what Marty says later on, or if he's
Marty's like, just myself. I just want a mirror.
All right, next question is from Hoots. It's fascinating how different my life is now that Tears of the Kingdom's release now at Tears of the Kingdom's release than it was 6 years ago at Breath of the Wild's release. Things I have now that I didn't have then: a wife, a house, a toddler, an infant, a job.
Wow.
I'm finding these things, while great, are having an impact on how I interact with this game. What season of life were you guys in 6 years ago at Breath of the Wild's release?
So first, Hoots, it's so funny. I think very rarely in life do we stop and look and think backwards to a certain period of time and just how things have changed. And Hoots, those are significant changes in your life. So congratulations to you. Well done. I do like however great it's impacting what I'm doing. You sound like exactly where we were when we started our own podcast. I think for me, as I look back 6 years ago, Breath of the Wild came out in 2017 in March. I was literally less than a month away from moving to Ireland with my family. So that was sort of where was I? My life since then is I moved abroad for 2.5 years, came back, right? My kids, my daughter is now, my oldest is in high school, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things that change over that amount of time. So it's kind of crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I have more time now than I did 6 years ago. Because 6 years ago, I had 3 kids at home, all in high school, freshman, junior, senior. So, and now
This is where I'm at right now, where Jesse is.
So now the oldest one's married and moved out of the house. The youngest one is also out of the house, moved in with her boyfriend of over 3 years. So that's been going well. My son moved out back in, but everyone's doing well.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I have more time now than before.
Yeah, for me, it's what's changed is when I got Breath of the Wild, I remember it specifically. Is like I was just getting started with after a few months of being in the Nintendo Dads community in that time. So because I started listening to you guys in the summer of 2016. And listening to Wii U content and talk and 3DS stuff. And then all of a sudden things started blowing up when October hit, and just fun listening up to that point, but even before the October thing, with the NX
You were
speculation.
introduced to the concept of rooftop parties.
Yes, but then when that came on, and so one thing left to another, and then it was like, okay, it was like, this is cool. How do I get involved? Type of thing. So I was doing little things here and there, but it was like when Breath of the Wild came out, I did my first video, I guess, because it was a midnight launch, and I recorded everything that I got and brought in, and then I shared it with the Nintendo Dads community, which was a lot of fun. Fast forward between now and then, I eventually did the community manager thing, moving Nintendo Dads to Discord, like I mentioned earlier. Then being a part of the show, getting my own little Nintendo Dads character, So with my family, it was eventually we moved out of the condo that we were in and into a house. My mom moved in with us. My kids are older, obviously. So at a time when they were listening to Nintendo Dads with me, they still do, but now I'm on the show, and they help out even sometimes by doing a video game review every now and then or two. So yeah, a lot's changed in that 6 years that now, thanks Hoots. Now you made me think about. No.
David,
So,
how about yourself?
Yeah.
6 years ago, my oldest was 6 and my youngest was 1. So I'm gonna say I had no time. Changing diapers and going to work and coming home. But I will say it's funny how your taste in games change over time. I found back then it was a lot of pick up and play for 5 minutes and put down, like a lot of like arcade games from the 80s and 90s, like Pac-Man, something you could pick up. Tetris, you could pick up, play for 5 minutes and put down. And go back to changing diapers or doing something with the kids. But now that my kids are older, 12 and 7, I do have time to vote to Tears of the Kingdom, where I could sit down for an hour and a half. So maybe I will get back into RPGs and those longer time sync games.
Yeah. And I think going back to like Hoots' kind of like lock of the question, which is what do you do, right? With something like Tears of the Kingdom, my statement would be like, sounds kind of silly, like only look at short, like change your objective of what you're looking to accomplish in that time. Like, so instead of I'm going to get to this dungeon, I'm going to complete this boss, it might be I am going to get from this location to this location. I'm going to get to this shrine and I'm going to complete that shrine, right? Like look at like little, like not necessarily side quests, but like what are little micro progressions that you can make in that longer ability. This climb that I've made to the dungeon that I'm currently going to, I did it like over like 4 different sessions, and it was literally like, okay, I'm going to start this progression and play for about half an hour because I've only got half an hour. And by the way, there's a shrine. That's a great spot to stop. I'm going to save. Perfect. Great. Next time I'm going to go a little bit more. So that that's kind of like how I chunked it out. So it allows for like these like 30-minute tight little sessions to play, right? As opposed to, yeah, I'm going to sit down for 6 hours. Like, I don't know about you all, but I do not get 6 hours in my life to do anything except sleep. That is the only time I ever get 6 hours of consistency.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's all like, for me, I only game in like 90-minute blocks, if not shorter than that. But to David's point, like it changes where you are. So.
And I would say enjoy it too, because a lot of times, people feel like rushed, like, oh, I got to finish it before. I think Tears of the Kingdom is one of those games where you could take your time and just kind of wander, just enjoy the scenery, just, oh, I see a tree over there. I see a stump, I see a well. What happens when I jump down the well? What's down there? Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just as long as the trees don't attack back, because that they do that sometimes now.
Yes.
I literally came across running through a forest, and there was 4 of them.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't have any axe weapons on me, so like.
And shooting an arrow does nothing. Yeah.
But
not unless that arrow has fire.
yeah, fire arrow. Two. At least I don't know if they have stronger versions, weaker versions. But the ones I was up against, they took 2 fire arrows to take them down. Because it does add, it does impact damage and then some damage over time. So I had to wait till the flames went out, and then I struck it again.
Today I found a horse in the cave, in the cave, the underworld area. There's bone horses apparently down there, and I thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, you can capture a dead horse.
Can you for real?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had stall horses.
Like, wait, what?
They had stall horses in Breath of the Wild too.
Did they?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, I missed that.
Yeah, they only spawn at night, and you can't store them in a stable. If you try, they freak out, and then when the sun comes up, they poof.
Okay. That is interesting. All right. Next question is from Presto the Magnificent. What's the best multiplayer game that came out before the Wii?
GoldenEye.
Okay.
That's a good answer.
Okay. I'm going to say
Kart?
that is another good one. I'm going to say one of the wrestling games too. I can't think of one.
Oh,
off the top.
WrestleMania 2000, one of
Yeah.
the THQ wrestling games.
Yes.
Those are good ones.
Yeah, those are pretty
Yeah.
fantastic. Maybe also I'll argue Melee or Brawl.
Okay.
Pretty good. Also, Halo 2's multiplayer was pretty wicked. Like
So,
deathmatch.
as you all know, I'm not much of a multiplayer fan, but the one game I do remember playing with my brother when we were younger, Baseball Simulator 1000.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, that was my next guess, actually.
One of the ones that I will put on there too is on the SNES that I loved playing with my friends, and that's Smash TV for the Super Nintendo. It was like a Running Man. You remember the movie Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger with the, they had to get through the game or whatever without getting murdered.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
it was basically, that was like in the arcades, that was like the first, what we call twin stick shooters that I remember seeing.
Yeah. And when it came out, we used to rent that all the time, my friends and I. So we play that. It's pretty fun.
How did that play on a Super Nintendo?
I remember it was fun. So, I mean, obviously it wasn't the same as an arcade.
Are you able to run left and shoot right, or you can only shoot where you're facing? Because that kind of limits you.
I think it was, you know what? I don't remember. I just remember it was fun. I have to go back to it. I thought I want to say it was,
because that was one of the bonuses of the game. That would be, again, being one of the first twin stick shooters. You could run away while you shoot behind you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't remember how that controlled and how you were shooting, but I just remember it was a good time to play on the Super Nintendo. So, all right. Did everybody answer? David, okay.
Yep.
All right.
I think
cool.
the N64 was when multiplayer really started to take off with the 4 ports in the front. I think the N64 started, like GoldenEye and Perfect Dark and the wrestling games. Dark, It was just so easy to have the 4 ports just to plug it in.
It was right there. You didn't have to buy an external peripheral or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. All right, next question comes from Patreon. Simon over there asks, "Hi guys, I put over 20 hours into Tears of the Kingdom, and yet I feel like I've done nothing. Does anyone else feel this way too?"
I think I just explained that.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
All right. Question from Twitter, Mikey Burgett, who again gave us the update on the Super Mario movie details. He asked, "Do you know much about this game called Cassette Beasts? Transform into monsters using retro cassette tapes. Faced with the constant threat of monster attacks, the residents of Harbortown, New World, choose to fight fire with fire. Record a monster to tape, then play it back to take on its form for battle. Any 2 monsters forms any two monster forms can be fused. There's a word, fused again, to produce unique, fully animated new fusion forms. Certain monster abilities can be used in human form. You'll need these to help you get around, solve puzzles, and locate dungeons.
I will say this, Mikey, we may have a first look coming soon. So
there we go.
Yeah, we'll tell you.
We don't know much about it right now, but stay tuned.
Yes, and I know that one of our content creator friends was like, "If you get this code, let me know." And so I think we're getting a code very soon for it. So
nice.
Yeah, we were anticipating today, but I think they just didn't get it out of time.
Perfect. All right. Well, can't answer at the moment, like I said, Mikey, but stay tuned. So, which I'm sure you will. All right, that's it for the questions. Let's close out the show. Any last minute things you guys want to mention before we close it out?
No, just Dave, thank you for being here. It was fantastic getting to spend time with you. Thank you for being an amazing member of our community and all the support that you've provided us. And so, yeah, just thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you for everything. Thank you for the years of content, and thank you for the community. The community is great. Everybody that's out there, hello everybody. It's a great group of people. They're always welcoming and great to talk to. Thank you to Kelsey, and thank you to the organization for putting up with me hounding them periodically, saying, "Oh, can I help? Can I help?" They've been great to give me the opportunity to help on numerous projects, and I just look forward to keeping it being able to help them and being able to listen to you guys and be part of the community.
Fantastic. Yep. Don't forget to check out gamehistory.org for more information about the Video Game History Foundation.
And feel free to donate.
And yes, hit that donate button in the upper right corner when you go there. All of that always helps. And share it too. Share it on your socials too. So if you can't necessarily give right now, maybe somebody else can. So sharing 100%. Is giving. All right. So with that, let's close it on out. First, a huge thanks to our Patreon producers, Dave Ernsberger, RJ Kern, Jacqueline Amira, Solo Something, as well as to our other 90 plus Patreons. Next, a special thank you to our 22 Twitch subscribers and over 1,407 Twitch followers, and a shout out to our 6,790 YouTube subscribers. We're a road to 10,000 subscribers, guys. I'm telling you. So thank you to everybody. We would not be here if it weren't for you. We would not be able to donate to Video Game History Foundation like we have been without you. So it's because of you that we're able to give to them as well. Check out our website at nintendodads.org for Spotify podcast feeds on our show, as well as the other Nintendo Dads family of podcasts like Game Pass News, where they cover Xbox topics, Dads After Dark Show, where they cover After Dark topics, and all their gaming topics too. Don't forget they are gaming dads. And the Retro Logic family of podcasts featuring Retro Logic, On Topic Retro, Retro Groove, and Film Logic. Our latest YouTube videos and tweets, links to all of our social media, Patreon, and Extra Life pages, and Nintendo Dads merch. Again, nintendodads.org. And don't forget to check out our sponsors like manscaped.com. Get 20% off your Manscaped order with free shipping with the code NINDADS, NINDADS. You can contact us in most places like Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube by typing Nintendo Dads, or email us at nintendodads@gmail.com, or call in and leave a voicemail at 92925-NDADS or 929-256-3237. Big thanks to OC Remix for the music throughout the show. Download from your favorite podcast app of choice, and please leave us a 5-star review and a comment. Those reviews go a long way. Thanks again to David for joining us here on today's episode, and Kelsey, from both of them being at the Video Game History Foundation. Again, shout out to them. And good night from Jesse, Justin, Marty, and myself. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Nintendo Dads.
Do you know who I am?